All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the recap. I'm Michael D'Angelo. Normally, I am joined by my partner in crime, Mr. Big D, Daryl Ortiz, but he is off on assignment, hanging out with the family, doing all that good stuff. So we miss you, Big D, but enjoy yourself, and you'll be back next week. In the meantime, y'all are just stuck with me, so you'll have to deal with it. But we're going to get right to it, recapping Raw and SmackDown. Before we do that, though, wanted to say in honor of Veterans Day coming up on Monday, just wanted to say a big thank you to all of our veterans out there. Thank you for all of your service, all that you do to keep us safe and to serve your country and to protect us. We appreciate you very much. Thank you for all your sacrifices. Now let's get into Raw and SmackDown. So we'll talk first about Monday Night Raw, coming off of Crown Jewel, which you saw if you saw the Crown Jewel recap last week. Was it was what it was. It was a so show. We always look at it as the detour from the regular storyline. So this felt like, okay, now we're going to move back into kind of our classic storylines for Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown. We did open up this week. It was Liv Morgan heading down to the ring, accompanied by Raquel Rodriguez and Dominic. This one was also emanating from Saudi Arabia as well. So the crowd was still pretty hot here. And then kind of during this segment, Liv kind of came out, started doing her trash talking. It was kind of the usual shtick. Dominic getting on the mic and getting booed by everybody, and then yelling at people in Spanish. And then we got an interruption from the tag champions, Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. I don't know why I blanked on Bianca Belair. So they both came down to the ring in kind of Deadpool cosplay is what it looked like. It looked like the ring gear was kind of modeled after Deadpool. Jade Cargill's definitely was. Bianca's was kind of similar in theme. I wish she had come out as Wolf. One of them should have been Wolverine, which I didn't understand why they were both Deadpool. It would have been a great opportunity for Bianca to be wearing like the yellow Wolverine cosplay outfit. But nevertheless, it was a miss on terms of synergy. The outfits look cool though. So they came down, essentially dropped a challenge to Liv and Raquel. And it was more of Liv trying to sow the seeds of dissension between Bianca and Jade, talking about how they weren't really friends. We've seen that they've been kind of teasing a little bit, obviously, with maybe Jade being a little reckless, being a little impulsive, kind of quick to anger. So this played on that storyline a little bit. It's been a little bit of a slow build for that. Didn't seem to work, though. Adam Pearce stormed down to try to break up everybody. And kind of during this, hey, we're not going to have any problems. We're not going to have any struggles. Bianca ended up slapping Liv Morgan and knocking her down during all the jawing. And then Adam Pearce very angrily announced that there was going to be a women's battle royale. And the winner of that battle royale was going to become the number one contender for Liv's championship, the women's world championship. And it was starting right now. And then I believe we went to commercial right after that. So that way, when we came back, you had this ring full of people. I try to make sure I have everyone straight. So it had both Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair were in. We had Damage Control and Io Sky and Kairi Sane. We had Natalia, Lyra Valkyria. We had Carter and Chance, we hadn't seen in a while. Maxine Dupree was there. Isla Dawn, Alba Fire, the Pure Fusion Collective, Ivy Nile, Selena Vega. So it was kind of frenetic. There was a lot of stuff happening. And then we got a long commercial break that was not picture in picture. And there was apparently a bunch of eliminations that happened during the commercial break. And so when we came back, you're seeing, here's all the cool spots that you missed. This person got eliminated. This person got eliminated. There was this cool spot with what is it? Chance doing that for Carter and Chance doing the kind of walk on her hands to not get eliminated. There was cool stuff that happened. You just had to see like a little flashback of, by the way, this happened while we were taking the commercial break because we really don't care about this match. So kind of cutting through all of that, it was very frenetic. The final four were Jade and Bianca, and then Lyra Valkyria and Io Sky. Those are the final four. There was a cool what was it? A cool double KOD and Jaded hit on Lyra and Io by Bianca and Jade Cargill. So that was a cool spot that was towards the end. And then you had Raquel and Liv, though. This is kind of what bothered me about the ending for this. I felt like they were trying to keep everybody protected. So they didn't want to have the tag champs get eliminated cleanly. So kind of while Bianca and Jade were both trying to eliminate Lyra, I believe at the time, Raquel and Liv jumped into the ring and threw them over the top ropes. And I'm like, they're like, oh, well, this is a no disqualification. They can do whatever they want. And I'm like, yeah, but it's an over top rope battle royal. They're not competitors. So if they throw you over the top rope, that shouldn't count. Like, I get that there's no disqualification, but I believe you have to be eliminated by somebody in the match. Like, someone can't just run in there and throw you over the top rope and you're out. So that felt like it was a little bit of a gray area. I wasn't wild about that. So that's how they got eliminated. So the final two ended up being Lyra and Io Sky. They went back and forth pretty briefly, and then they both wound up on the outside on the ring apron with Iho hitting a suplex to Lyra, and Lyra fell down, fell off of the ring apron. So Io Sky won the women's battle royal. It wasn't, for me, it was too frenetic of a match. It was a little too confusing. You had the long break. A lot of the cool stuff, again, eliminations happened when we weren't watching, and we had to kind of see the highlight package that they ran when they came back from commercial. But I do like Io Sky winning because we've talked about it on this show quite a bit. I think she's great. She does fantastic work. I miss her in her singles title run when she was the women's champion. And obviously she's been doing a lot of tag team matches with Kairi Sane while Asuka's been out. But I really feel like she shines as an individual competitor. So it will be nice to see her get that future title shot against Liv Morgan. I feel like they're going to continue to draw out the Liv Morgan storyline with her being the champion and cheating to win all the time. So I don't know if that bodes well for Iho, but looking forward to that in the future. But Io Sky wins the Women's Battle Royal. Then after that, you had, it was like a brief interview with the New Day because the New Day were going to be taking on the War Raiders later. They were also in kind of Power Rangers cosplay. Everybody had like cosplay outfits on today. So they were Power Rangers cosplay where it was a unicorn instead of like the dinosaur from on the emblem. And then it was, I believe Kofi was in the kind of the Green Ranger garb. Xavier Woods in the Black Ranger garb because he's still wearing black every single week, kind of playing into his heel turn. Just more arguing between those two. Then there was a video package of The Miz having now been kidnapped by the Wyatt Six. And this was, again, pretty telegraphed and pretty obvious because he's like, I'm not the one you want. You want the Final Testament. And they're like, we never wanted the Final Testament. To which I'm like, duh, I've been saying that for weeks. It was very, very clear that they were never interested in the Final Testament. They were always interested in The Miz. And so they confirmed that. It was a pretty obvious reveal. And then I believe Bo Dallas said that they would make him beg and plead for mercy until he returns to the dust in the ground. So I guess they're gonna murder him. Somebody should probably get on that. It sounds like the Miz's life is in danger because they basically said they were going to murder him. So we'll see what happens with that. I like the fact that they're like, hey, we had nothing to do with that video. Our production team didn't produce that. It's like, well, I would hope not, because it's like a snuff film. You're filming a murder intent for this person to be murdered. So hopefully the Miz gets out and he isn't killed by the Wyatt Six, although that was the implication. Then they did a quick announcement that Goldberg is going to have his retirement match. I thought he already had like 50 of those. Goldberg is going to do it one more time. I guess he needs one more concussion before calling it a career, or he needs to hurt one more person before he hangs him up. So Goldberg's getting one last match. I'm going to guess he's going to face John Cena, since John Cena is on the retirement tour as well. And he's talking about he's lining up all these matches. So I'm betting it's going to be John Cena versus Goldberg. Winner gets a concussion. Loser gets a concussion. We'll see how that goes. I'm not interested in seeing Goldberg compete anymore. But I digress. Apparently, there's lots of people that are. After that, we got New Day versus the War Raiders. This one I had a commercial break too. Everything's got commercial breaks in it. At least this one was... this one was no picture-in-picture either, actually. I was like, I don't like picture-in-picture commercials, but at least you get to see something. There was no picture-in-picture here. The match was good. It was really good. It was served more as a vehicle for the continued downward spiral of Woods and the New Day. Long story short, the War Raiders did hit the War Machine on Woods, picked up the win. This kind of goes back and forth to they're clearly telegraphing moving towards the split between New Day. So there was a lot of arguing back and forth with Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. So I'm hoping they'll get to that sooner than later, because we've just seen it teased so much, and we know Woods is a heel. Obviously now he's doing heel things, so we'll get there eventually. After this, we had like a little backstage segment with Sami Zayn and Jay asking Sami if the boot to the face on Roman Reigns was really accidental, what happened at Crown Jewel. And then Jimmy came down to the ring and said that Sammy did it on purpose, and Sammy, basically walked Jimmy down memory lane at this point. They were all standing out in the ring, and basically said that Jimmy was the bad guy, that he wasn't the bad guy, and like, which is just true. He kind of walked him through all the old scenarios with what was going on and the betrayals when they were in the original bloodline. Then Sammy said that he loves Jay, he loves Jay, but he just can't do this again. He can't put himself through this. It sounded like a bad breakup, and that he was out, and so Sammy got out of the ring and started walking off. And then Jay was like, Sammy, please come to SmackDown and we can talk it out. I hope to see you on SmackDown. I hope to see you. This was good. This was fun. You're starting to see a little bit more of like the old Sami Zayn and some of the comedy stuff. When he gets all excited and infectious in what he's doing. He's talked a lot about this promo, then on SmackDown as well, talking about, how when they were back at Crown Jewel and they were all in the ring together, that it felt right, and it was kind of the nostalgia of how good it felt, and it felt like old times. So it's nice to see that. Obviously, they're building towards, they're all going to work it out and get it back together early in time for War Games. After this, you had a little brief Seth Rollins backstage where he looked like the Wicked Witch of the West. I don't know, maybe this is a Wicked cross promotion. He's wearing some unwieldy garb with like the pointy shoulder pads and the big glasses. It was a little much, even for Seth Rollins. And I know he's a very fashion forward guy, but my goodness, it looked kind of ridiculous. So we got him just kind of talking about later on he's going to be in the match, which was the number one contenders match, Fatal 4-Way, which got pitched twice by competitors as 3 deserving competitors plus Dominic. It's a little bit of a funny dig at Dominic Mysterio that shouldn't be there and doesn't belong there. So they did that joke 2 times, 2 different occasions. After this, we had Dragon Lee versus Chad Gable, which was a really great match. And that's because Gable's great at everything. So is Dragon Lee. I enjoyed this match more than I would. They had good chemistry together. You had a moment where Gable got German suplex, and they kind of no-sold it, popped up immediately and pulled the singlets down, and then countered with his own German suplexes. It was a really good, solid match. Ending was like, because there was a lot of distractions toward the end. Essentially, he got the win off a distraction from Rey Mysterio. There was some brawling with Ivy Nile and Zelina Vega outside, and then Rey Mysterio came down to kind of check on Zelina, make sure she was okay, and cause a distraction. Just too much interference, so that was a little bit silly. But the match itself was really good. After that, we had a Kaiser and Gunther interview where I'm not sure if they're kind of moving towards a split between Gunther and Kaiser, where Gunther was basically very complimentary. He said there's 3 very capable performers and Dom that are going to be competing in the number one contenders match for his title. Kaiser was kind of trying to downplay everybody. Gunther seemed to take a little bit of exception to that. So we'll see where that goes, if they're kind of working towards a split with them. But that led into the main event. So the main event was a number one contenders match: Seth Rollins versus Sheamus versus Dominic Mysterio, who's the third person that everyone kept ridiculing, against versus Damian Priest. So I had called this last week and said I thought Damian Priest was going to win. Damian Priest did win as predicted. And Bronson Reed did interfere as expected, because that was the other prediction, is either it was going to be Bronson Reed with an interference to kind of take Seth Rollins out of the equation, or CM Punk. Ended up being Bronson Reed. Earlier on during that interview where Seth Rollins was dressed like the Wicked Witch of the West, he was saying that, Bronson Reed's great. We'll pick this up later. I'm going to, he's in the past. Now moving forward. Clearly, he is not in the past. It was a lot of interference, though, with Bronson Reed coming down and basically just attacking everybody and taking everyone out, hitting everybody with tsunamis. He did hit Seth with a tsunami through the announce table. After all this commotion of him just like destroying everybody, Damian Priest did hit the South of Heaven on Dominic and picked up the win. So it was a lot of fun. Does feel a little bit cheap that you have that much interference from Bronson Reed going out there and wrecking everybody. That's more of the explanation as to why Seth Rollins didn't win. I could tell that was the intent there. But ultimately, you wound up with Damian Priest hitting the South of Heaven. He is the number one contender once again for Gunther's World Heavyweight Championship. So it was all right. I mean, it was fine. I wish it had been a little bit more wrestling centric, but I know they kind of do like 4 matches now on the 2-hour shows. The matches themselves were fine for me. I think the match of the night probably was Dragon Lee versus Chad Gable in terms of wrestling. In terms of entertainment value, main event was pretty good just because there was lots of shenanigans and lots of tsunamis and carnage. So That one was fun too, but I'll say match of the night wrestling wise, Dragon Lee versus Chad Gable. So that takes us through Monday Night Raw. I'm going to give it a B just because, it was okay. Wasn't the greatest, wasn't the worst. I'll give it a B show. Now we go on to SmackDown. Opened up with a Crown Jewel recap again. And then you had Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso heading straight down to the ring. You got the OTC chants raining down from the crowd. As Roman was standing in the ring and about to speak, like he got there, he does the microphone thing. Then Jay's music hit, and then we got to wait for Jay to come down. He's got to do the whole thing and eat and cheer and everything. And then Jay immediately picks up and just says, "Hey, there was a lot of misunderstandings to sort out last week," and basically just asked Roman to hear out Sammy. And then Sammy walked out next. We had a lot of Sammy Uso chants, which was nice. And then Sammy gave a very impassioned promo, which I enjoyed this one as well. He said that the kick to the face, explained, was not on purpose. And he was only at Crown Jewel because of Jay, because he needed to help Jay. That wasn't the only reason why he was here now. And then basically just said it was, great to be back in the ring, and it felt like old times, and kind of pointing to the nostalgia of Crown Jewel and the four of them being together in the ring, and that he wasn't the only one that had felt it. He knew Jay felt it, knew Jimmy felt it, and that he knew Roman felt it. And he was like, "I think, Roman, I think you love me." And which started getting me to crack up as well, because it did feel very much like kind of the silly Sami Zayn thing where he's like, the vintage bloodline stuff was like, yeah, we'll, me and Jay will do the handshake thing, and Jimmy will be in the back making faces and no fun. So it was fun. It was cool. This is the things that I enjoy about Sami Zayn, which is why I was excited about the prospect of him coming back into the bloodline, because as everyone knows, those promos with me getting everybody to break were just golden. So I want me more of that. You got a little bit of a taste of that here. But he was in vintage form. And then he basically said, "Hey, ball's in your court, Roman. Whatever you want to do, I'll do." But he needed Roman to do one thing, which was to apologize. And he's like, "Well, why would I apologize to you?" And he's like, "Don't apologize to me. Apologize to Jay." And then Roman went up to Jay and said he was sorry that he let Jay waste his time with all of this. So, bait and switch. And then he kind of ran down Sami Zayn, said he wasn't family, and just segued into calling out Solo and saying, "Hey, Solo, get down here." And then Sammy just started taking off. He's like, "Peace." As he was leaving, because it didn't work out, if the two came up on the Titantron rather than, I still call the Titantron the Jumbotron, the big screen. It'll always be the Titantron to me. But he came up on there saying, Solo's going to come out when he wants to, acknowledge that. And then just that was it. He was just kind of trash talking a little bit like, "Hey, you're going to wait on us." And then the segment was just kind of abruptly over. And then after that, we got a backstage segment between Jimmy, Jay, and Roman, with Jay and Jimmy both kind of questioning Roman about Sami Zayn at that point, and kind of putting him on notice. Jay was essentially like, "Hey, you're not going to talk to me like this. That was your one free chance. I already said if it's going to be like you running everything, I'm out." So kind of everybody dispersed, and it's like, "Oh no, are they going to be broken up? Is this thing going to all work out?" I'm betting it'll work out, just as an FYI. But that's how that segment ended. Next up was Bayley versus Candice LeRae. So this is notable, kind of the continuation of the tag match. Candice LeRae had gotten the pinfall on Bayley when she was tagging with Nia, so now they're facing each other individually. Also notable because Candice LeRae's tag team partner Indy Hartwell was just released with WWE, so she's no longer with the company. So I guess Candice LeRae was going to continue on as a singles competitor, which is pretty unfortunate. Indy Hartwell's pretty awesome. They also announced Baron Corbin was released again, which that's a bummer, because I really liked what he was doing on NXT. And when he got called back up again, I was excited to see him. They just never utilized. I don't know if they don't know what to do with him or what's going on, but we wish them both the best. Good luck. Hopefully, they'll continue to have success on the independent scene. It's just a little unfortunate, but here we got Bayley versus Candice LeRae. Match itself was fine. Immediately went to a picture-in-picture commercial, as they all do now. And then shortly after the break, you had Candice do the fake an injury thing. She did that several times where it's like, "Oh no, I'm hurt." And then she would like pull one over on people. And then she tried to surprise roll up Bayley, and then Bayley countered with her own surprise roll up and got the win. So it was okay. It was okay. I just felt like I wasn't all that interested in seeing Candice LeRae versus Bayley. And the hook here was supposed to be that Bayley had always looked up to Candice and like idolized her on the independent scene. And I'm thinking, Bayley has become like 10 times the star that Candice LeRae has ever been, probably ever will be. So it's odd to be like, she idolized her and idolizes her. Like, that's the whole thing of like, does she want to fight against her idol? So that just felt forced and a little clunky to me. The match was fine. It was what it was. After this, we had Motor City Machine Guns backstage segment. So with Johnny Gargano basically fanboying on them, like, "Oh, you guys are so great. You're the best. You're amazing." And then Tommaso Ciampa came out and basically read Johnny the Riot Act for butting up to Motor City Machine Guns, which I kind of get. And they've also been doing that thread with, Tommaso kind of turning heel and getting mad, getting fed up with Gargano and being a little bit more intense. So this led into their match later. They were facing Pretty Deadly later. And then kind of once they all finished squabbling, just Randy Orton walking by the camera, and then he just walks out. The camera just follows, like, all right, we're following him. And they follow him out through gorilla position. And then his music hits, head straight out to the ring for a promo. And then basically it was a quick promo. Orton just said, "Crown Jewel was just the beginning. Like, get out here for your beating, Randy Orton." And Randy just walked out immediately, and security and refs walked out with him. And then Owens ran down to the ring, and they started brawling. They brawled very briefly, and everyone kind of half-heartedly tried to break them up. And then Kevin Owens kind of awkwardly pulled Randy into a pile driver where you could see his head came nowhere near hitting the ring, which is good because it's supposed to be safe. But the whole thing of this was, oh my gosh, he did this illegal pile driver. Oh, Randy's like so hurt. He's holding his neck. And then, they had to put him on a backboard, take him out on a stretcher, take him to the ambulance, take him out. It was like, oh no, he's so badly hurt. And you're like, they showed the replay like 3 times and you could see like he had like a foot of clearance between his head and the rings. There's no way, which is good. Again, you got to work safe, but it just like, come on, like we know he didn't actually make contact there. And it ate up a lot of time. It was like all this was real quick. There wasn't much to it, but just the amount of time for, oh, he's hurt. Oh, wave down. Oh, get help. Oh, get a backboard. All right, get him onto the backboard. All right, let's wheel him out. It ate up a lot of time. And I'm also not really interested in Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton. I had said that before. It wasn't on my bucket list of seeing a program between these two. So I could have really done without all of this. This just felt like filler, and it felt like something to give Randy Orton and Kevin Owens something to do, which is fine if they don't have anything else to do. But I can think of better things for Randy Orton at this point in his career. After this, we had Pretty Deadly versus DIY. Ciampa was in a bad mood because of all the shenanigans that had happened and all the compliments that Gargano had been handing to the Motor City Machine Guns. And so it was basically Ciampa just like brutalizing Pretty Deadly. And you can see Gargano kind of taken aback by the amount of brutality that Ciampa was really initiating in this, banging people's heads off of the announce desk multiple times, so whipping folks into the steel steps, really working the heel stuff. And this was a really fast match. Ciampa never tagged in Gargano. He quickly hit Prince with a fairy tale ending, won very quickly, then kind of scolded Gargano when Gargano tried to celebrate and just stormed off to the back with Gargano in pursuit. So very short match, only really meant to advance the divide that's happening between DIY because obviously they're going to break them up and split them. It was fine. It was fine by me. Again, played into the storylines that they've been working for some time with this team splitting up. Similar to like the New Day, kind of they've been working on that for months and months and months over on Raw, doing the same thing with DIY here. But it was fine. After this, we had Jade and Bianca were back. Versus Nia and Tiffany Stratton. And Nia was upset that Tiffany put this match together at all. Tiff was saying she was basically trying to line up a tag title opportunity so that way they could have all the gold, and then they'd have the division dominated. And Nia's like, I already do. Like, why would that matter? And then she was like, this plan better work. Okay, so when the match started, as soon as it started, it quickly went to commercial. Not a picture-in-picture commercial. So this was just like a commercial break that went on for probably like 3 or 4 minutes. It was a pretty significant one. And so after this long commercial break, we came back. We were back for a few seconds. And then we got a picture-in-picture commercial for Golden Corral right again. And I'm like, seriously? Like, we just came off of a commercial break. You come back, let's go for like 2 seconds, and then just run an ad for Golden Corral and switch to picture-in-picture. And I'm like, seriously, WWE, if you don't care about this match, why should we? So you can't have this many commercials and this many interruptions and then no picture. Like, that tells me you're not interested in the outcome of this matchup. So we shouldn't be either. What we got to see was all right. We eventually got to see a hot tag to Bianca Belair. And she came in. Jade, I guess, when all the stuff that we didn't see had been isolated, she got the hot tag to Bianca, and Bianca ran wild on Tiffany Stratton. And then you had there was a cool moment where Nia Jax and Tiffany hit a double team. It was a blockbuster Samoan drop, so she had her in the Samoan drop position, and then Tiff climbed up and hit the blockbuster, and they kind of both fell to the ground at the same time. It looked cool. It was neat. They hit that on Bianca. And then you had Candice LeRae run down because, of course, she did, which caused Naomi to run down to even the odds. So then there was this big chaos ensues. People are brawling. You got the outside interference going. And while all this was going on, Bianca hit Tiffany with the KOD during all that commotion and got the pinfall for her team. So match was fine. I mean, I don't like all the interference finishes, which they do quite often on WWE to help people save face. I didn't like the long commercial break followed immediately by another short picture-in-picture commercial because, again, it just kind of took me out of the match, made me feel like they're not really interested in showing this match. But it was fine. After this, we got Motor City Machine Guns versus Austin Theory and Waller. So Grayson Waller. So this one was my match of the night by far, mostly because we got like a little short squash match. Had this other match that was really kind of cut into. I didn't really care for Bayley Candice LeRae. Matches weren't all that great, but this one was really, really good. Motor City Machine Guns have been excellent. We get another long picture-in-picture commercial break, which was a bummer, but at least we got to see the match through picture-in-picture. And then there was a lot of Shelley getting isolated by A-Town Down Under early on. He did eventually get the tag from Sabin, and they took control later on in the match. Motor City Machine Guns really shine doing double team moves, which are prevalent throughout. Obviously, they've got fantastic chemistry. They've been together for a long time. They did eventually hit Grayson Waller with the Skull and Bones and picked up the win here. I'll say it again. Motor City Machine Guns is the best thing on SmackDown right now, in my opinion. It was really great stuff. Good match. And then they're going to be competing again next week, I guess, for the titles against the Street Profits. So keeping them busy, keeping them booked are the Motor City Machine Guns. But enjoyed this one, match of the night. Then after this, we had two more segments and no more wrestling, two more segments to close out the show. So we got an announcement from Nick Aldis that there will now be a women's United States Championship. He did the unveiling, which basically looks exactly like the men's United States Championship, just smaller. So it's going to be a women's U.S. Championship. Announced that it will be earned by those willing to seize the moment. So I'm not sure what that means. Does that mean you're doing a tournament? Probably doing a tournament because WWE loves to do their tournaments for championships. But looking forward to it. I think this is a great idea, great opportunity, creates more symmetry between the divisions, the men's and women's divisions. It does have me wondering, though, are they going to announce now on Monday Night Raw a women's Intercontinental title? Because obviously the U.S. Championship is exclusive to SmackDown. Intercontinental title is exclusive to Raw. They tend to be pretty consistent with branding. When they rebranded the tag titles for both shows, they did it at the same time. When they do tag tournaments, they kind of run them at the same time. So they tend to be very consistent with that. So I'm kind of expecting to see a similar announcement on Raw, where there'll be an unveiling of a women's Intercontinental title. Maybe not. We'll see. I hope they do. I think it would be really cool to see a women's Intercontinental title unveiled as well. But good stuff. Congratulations. It'll be exciting to see who is going to be the first ever women's United States Championship. Stay tuned for that. Main event segment time. Since there's no more wrestling, we had the official Tribal Chief acknowledgement ceremony, which we do like 50 of these things a year, apparently. New Bloodline all walked out together to open it off. Solo kicked things off with Acknowledge Me, Buffalo. They did not, in case you were wondering. And then you had Roman's music hit immediately after that. And then he walked out all by himself because he's managed to alienate every single person. So he's all by himself. Then Solo said that Roman needed to acknowledge him before Buffalo did. And Roman then, of course, asked Buffalo, hey, do you guys acknowledge him? And they're like, no. And he's like, me neither. And they're like, yeah. I mean, that was pretty obvious. And he said he would never acknowledge him. And then at that point, Roman said that he was going to challenge Solo to a one-on-one match, and the winner would be the Tribal Chief, to which Solo audibly laughed about it because he's like, hey, dude, I'm already the Tribal Chief. Why would I need to do that? And you can't be a chief without a tribe because you're out here by yourself. And I'm like, sick burn. That was pretty good because it's true. He's a Tribal Chief for nobody. And then Solo countered with a challenge at War Games. The most obvious thing that was going to happen. Big D and I have been talking about this for months, that obviously they were building to a War Games match between Old Bloodline versus New Bloodline. And here we have it. It's going to happen. So it's going to be the 5-on-5 match at Survivor Series. As we predicted. Then they were kind of going through on head count. He's like, get 4 other guys. And then Roman's like, well, you don't have 5 guys. And then he goes through and says, we've got me, we've got Jacob, and then you got Tonga Loa, and Sami Zayn. Dun, dun, dun. And then Sami just kind of walked out slowly and stood at the top of the ramp. And then while they were all looking down at Sami, Roman shouldn't have turned his back, and they jumped on him and they started attacking him. And then you had Jimmy and Jay run out past Sami. Even though they've established Sami was a bad guy, I'm surprised nobody took a shot on him. They just ran past him and started helping Roman. And then they were all getting beat up. Roman was about to get Samoan spiked by Solo, but then Solo was like, hey, Sami, get down here and kick him in the face. And so he's holding them for him, and he gets down there. And what does Sami do? Sami doesn't kick Roman in the face. He kicks Solo in the face. Oh, it was a double turn, which was pretty obvious. And then at that point, what was it? Sami hit the Helluva Kick, and then Jacob came in and Roman hit Jacob for 2 with a Superman punch. Sami followed up with a Helluva Kick, because obviously you have to. He's so strong that you have to like bash him with multiple things, and they'll still probably no sell it. Jacob for 2, also awesome on SmackDown. So he was out of the ring, and then Roman hit Solo with the spear, and then what you had left was Sami and Roman left in the ring by themselves, kind of staring at each other. Jay and Jimmy joined them in the ring, and then they all slowly put up the ones. It was Jay first, I believe, and then Jimmy, then Sami, and Sami's like, are you going to do it? And then Roman did it as well. The ones were in the air. Everyone was cheering. And that's how it closed, with the 4 back together, standing tall, ones up. It was cool. It was a nice moment. So we're kind of heading into War Games. That's what it seems like at this point. With you have the 4 of them, they're going to need to get their 5th as well. So this will be interesting. Because it's just 4 people right now. It's Jay, Jimmy, Solo, and Sami Zayn, Solo, Jay, Jimmy, Sami Zayn, and Roman. So they're gonna have to find an additional person as well. So this will be, obviously The Rock is going to be the extra one for Bloodline 2.0. Feel like that's pretty obvious, but we'll see how this ends up playing out. But all getting set up for War Games, which is coming up shortly. And that is how SmackDown ended. So SmackDown, I'm going to give it a B also, because I think the wrestling was pretty inconsistent. You did have the one match of the night from the Motor City Machine Guns, but all in all, you had a squash match, and then you had a lot of interruptions during the women's tag match. You had the what was the first match? Bayley, the women's singles match, Bayley versus Candice LeRae, was like, eh. So I'll give it a B show overall. So that was it. That was Raw and SmackDown this week. Heading into War Games, I'm sure it's going to be fast and furious over the next several weeks, as they're working to kind of get everything lined up for that show. And we'll continue on with the Bloodline storylines and getting everybody set for their War Games teams. So should be an exciting couple of weeks. So that is it for this abbreviated fast version of the recap with just me, Michael D'Angelo. Never you worry. Big D will be back next week as well. You just have to put up with me right now. We appreciate your support as always. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Please leave us comments if you just want to agree with us, talk wrestling. We love all that good stuff. We appreciate the support as always. And that's what I got this week. So until I see you again, I've been Michael D'Angelo. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. We'll see you soon.